Hi there, this is Dana. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to do what's called a satin stitch. So obviously from the name, it makes your embroidery look like satin. It's good for sort of bigger areas of stitching, like these shapes, these hearts that I'm going to be showing you. Also things like lettering. In this piece here, you can see I've done satin stitch with the lettering following the main direction of the stitching, or of the letters, I should say. So what actually happened is I actually filmed most of this and then my camera died. It had a glitch and actually erased the entire video. So you can see I've actually got 2 of the 3 done here, but what I'm going to do is explain what I've done because I'm not going to unpick them and start all over again. And then I'll show you exactly how to do the satin stitch on this final one here. So this one here, this beautiful little variegated one, this is using DMC 4517. This is a lovely one of the ones from the Coloris range. And also I've got here DMC 815, which is this one here, and DMC 304, which is this one here. So the differences between these two was, and I'll bring up a picture right now that you can see what I did when I started, was this one was just drawn on, the outline was just drawn on. I drew the outlines, I traced my pattern with the friction pen here. I've got a video about how to do that, so that'll be in the description below. And also this is a free pattern, so if you aren't already a Peacock Lounge member, you can sign up with the little button that's going to come up on the left-hand side, or right-hand side I should say, and sign up for that, and that gives you access to all the free patterns, including the free cross-stitch ones. So this is one of the freebies. So what I've done is I traced the 3 hearts onto my fabric. This is lovely Kingston linen from Zweigart. And this one here, I just traced the heart. So what I did is I stitched, and I'll show you how to do it on this one here. I stitched just using the outline. This one here, what I'd done is I outlined the heart in stem stitch first, and I've also got a video for that. I'll put that in the description below as well. So I'd outline that in stem stitch. Some people find it easier to follow a line of stitching that's already there, and it also it gives it a slightly raised effect, which you can see. And then this one here is an outline of stem stitch, and it's also been filled in with running stitch. This is called padded satin stitch, and it can, depending on how many strands you use in here, this is all done with 3 strands. Depending on how many strands, it can make it look puffier or less puffy, but it's also a nice way to do satin stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you how to do satin stitch with this one. So if you're, whether you've got your line, just your traced outline, or whether you've got the stem stitch, or back stitch also works for this, or a small chain stitch, you want to either get directly on the line, or in the case of stitching that's already there, just barely on the outside of it. And you're going to want to divide your design in half, and I'll show you why in a moment. Alright, so I've got 3 strands here, and then same thing, you're going to want to drop down again just on the outside of that. You can even angle your needle in a little bit to make sure you're getting really, really close to that stitching. And then you're going to come up again at the bottom. The reason you don't come up, like save thread and come up next to that, is if you're going always the same direction, your hand kind of gets a bit of a flow, and your stitches end up looking more even. Alright, and then you're going to again, so you're coming up as close as you can to that first stitch without actually piercing it. And again, going down as close as you can. There you go. And as you keep going, this is going to start to, don't panic at first if you think that it's a bit gappy. As you go, the floss will kind of start squishing into each other and make it less visible. But that's one nice thing about doing this one with the padding underneath, is it's the same color, so even if you do end up with the odd little gap, it's actually not going to be that visible from the front. Like this. So as I said, this is using 3 strands. If you do 1 strand, it's going to end up with a really, really, really beautiful satin effect. It's going to be really, really smooth. The more strands you use, the more sort of chunky it's going to look, but you can see, you can kind of spread them out with your fingers a bit, which can be a really neat effect. Like I've seen some of Jessica Long's work. She's Namaste Embroidery. She does some neat stuff with roses where she uses quite thick strands of floss and gets quite a neat sort of textural effect with her satin stitch. So it totally depends what look you're going for. Obviously, the fewer strands you use, the tighter or the smoother your stitch is going to look, but it's going to take a lot longer as well. Same with the more strands you use, it's going to go a lot faster, but your stitches might not end up looking quite as smooth as you would like. All right, I'm just going to drop this one down here. So the reason that I started in the center is you can see all of my stitches are going the same direction as your center line and working out. If you start at one end and work this way, by the time you got to the other side, it's pretty much guaranteed your stitches are going to slowly start to sway one side or another. So then, you know, your satin stitch isn't going to look as even, whereas if you start in the center and work out, and then come back to the center and work out, then your stitches are a lot more likely to be even. I'd also recommend if you're working on a piece that's, say, really long and skinny, I wouldn't run your satin stitch that way because your stitches might end up bubbling up, and especially if it's on clothing or something that's going to be worn, those long threads could get caught. So I would, if it's like long and skinny like a rectangle, I would actually go this way and do your satin stitch that way. So yeah, I'm going to keep going with this. One thing to note, if you're doing the padded satin stitch, you can see I've actually done the padding a different direction than the stitches that are overlaying the top. And that's to sort of give it more of the padded effect. You can do it either way. You can experiment and see what you like best. So I'm going to pause the video for now and then finish this one up, and then you can see them all when they're done. Alright, so there we go. It's all finished. Isn't it cute? So as I said, this is going to be a free pattern in the Peacock Lounge, so there'll be the little link popping up on the right. And if you find, so there's 3 different ways to do it, either just by drawing the lines or doing the slip stitch or chain stitch or back stitch and then doing it over top, or doing the full padded version. So it depends on which you find easier. If you find that, say, you know, you don't like the way that the edges look, like, say, oh, they're just not perfect enough for me or whatever, what you can do too is like just do a really simple chain stitch or back stitch or split stitch, sorry, around the outside edge, like covering those little sort of seams, basically, like where your floss is hitting. And that's totally fine. I mean, this is your project. I mean, there's nothing saying that it has to look like this. Like, if you want to add an extra stitch around the outside to make it look smoother to your eye, go for it. You know, experiment, see what you like to do. And that's a nice thing about embroidery. There aren't really any rules, so you know, as long as you're enjoying it and you're happy with your finished project. And again, too, I mean, satin stitch is a trickier stitch too, so I mean, it does take a little bit of practice to start getting it looking smoother, but I mean, that's the fun thing. I mean, it doesn't take really much more than a bit of fabric and some floss, so, you know, enjoy and have fun. You know, use up all those little leftover scraps that you have. And that's it for now. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.